Last week we showed you sandblasting our chain locker, and today we're going to show you how we painted and then sealed up the deck. I'm Taryn, this is Logan, and this is Max. Our life rarely goes as planned, and this story is no different. But we are determined to rebuild our beautiful steel boat, even stronger than she was before. And we're bringing you along with us. It took quite a few months for us to be ready to actually sandblast the locker, even though we had a blaster built in February. Part of the reason it took so long to get to the point of blasting was that it was surprisingly difficult to find a paint system in Canada that was going to work well for our steel application. And we needed to be ready to paint as soon as the locker was blasted, or we might be back to having rust issues. We wanted something that was going to work with steel specifically and was going to work like an industrial paint, so we didn't have to worry about repainting in a year or two. Every country seems to have different rules about chemical use and which paints are allowed. After much research, calling around, and talking to other steel boat owners, we finally were able to find a system that was perfect for our project. We were able to get in touch with a paint rep at Cloverdale who was very knowledgeable about which of their products would be best for our steel boat, which was surprisingly hard info to get from any other paint company we contacted. The first thing we did after sandblasting and drying the locker was spraying on an acid cleaner. The acid solution converted any rust from the blasting process into something that could be painted. Well, I'm standing outside here to avoid the freaking fumes from that stuff. It's crazy. I don't know if it's just because it's in a shed or what it is, but yeah, it's hard to breathe in there right now as he's spraying it. So it's a good thing he's got a respirator on. I obviously did not put one on. Honestly, I don't think I have the right filters on it right now anyway, and I don't feel like putting one on, so I'm just gonna stay out here till he's done. It's instantaneous. It's like he sprays it on and it goes right back to the gray bare metal color that it was at from the orange. It's crazy how fast it works. So then we've got to let it sit for about 5 minutes and then spray it all off and then let that dry. And then we brush it. And then I think we rinse it again after that, but I could be wrong. And then after that's done, then we put the primer on. Then we weld the deck back on. It's really exciting to think that we're so close to having that done. And then once that's done, we can start on the bulwarks and hopefully get closer to getting back in the water. Man, it's just such a huge project, so I am very excited to be moving forward.
Finally, we're gonna mix up paint.
But is it paint or is it like primer?
It's primer.
Hi, buddy.
You gotta stay here, bud. You can't go over there yet. You gotta stay. Well, we have to mix up the primer, part A and part B. It's an epoxy primer. And then it has an induction time of 15 minutes at 25 degrees Celsius, which it's not that warm out, so we'll let it sit a bit longer, and then we have to thin it down till it goes on properly.
Perfect.
I'm not a painter, so this should be interesting.
The paint primer we decided to go with is Clovomastic, a 2-part epoxy paint. We wanted a 2-part because they are much better at withstanding the types of conditions we sail and live in, so they are also more difficult to apply and deal with. You're probably wondering why we decided to paint before putting the deck pieces on, and the main reason is that we wanted to make sure we were able to paint all the difficult nooks and crannies that may otherwise be missed due to visibility issues. How's it going up there?
It is very difficult to paint. I am dizzy from hanging upside down.
I guess this is why people spray.
I don't think you can spray all that though, like to get up underneath all of the ribs and whatchamacallits. It would be nice to spray some of that stuff though.
that was a long day. We have all the sand put away, the chain lockers painted, and by painted I mean there's a primer coat on it, and we're all cleaned up now.
And yeah, we have a mostly primed chain locker. I left the hatch frame unprimed because we have to weld stuff to it, and it's going to be accessible. Yeah, we left the tops of where the deck goes over the beams unprimed, and around the edges so that we can weld the decking on with hopefully burning minimal amounts of paint in the process.
Fingers crossed.
But yeah, what a day.
A couple of days.
Yeah, it's been 2 really long days of work. Of back-breaking work. My back is broken. I'm done.
Yeah, it's hot out. This is the hottest day this year so far, so.
Yeah, it literally went from like
8 degrees.
a high of 8 degrees to now it's like in the 20s.
Yeah, it's at least 25 degrees outside right now. For sure.
Yeah, it's hot. I will really want to be wearing shorts and sandals.
Yeah.
And drinking a beer in the cockpit while staring at pretty scenery.
Next summer. Okay, let's get home so we can eat and stuff.
Yep.
You stay there. He's in the car because his friend Bonshu, who also lives here, plays too rough. Doesn't understand when it's time to ease off of Max. So in order for him to not get hurt, he's staying in the car. You have to stay in the car. I know, you're a good boy. He's not very happy about it. And as you see, if we just let him come out, what are you doing? Where are you going? He's just gonna go to the front door and ask for treats again. I know, you're very sad, but this is to keep you healthier, so you don't get hurt. Yeah. Yeah. Poor boy. He's just embarrassed. Oh, poor guy. Once the paint was dry, it was time to weld back on the deck plating that we had taken off for replacement. Logan placed fiberglass fire blankets in the locker to keep as much heat and metal off of the new paint as he could while welding. And then he began the job of welding on the new deck plates. And while he did that, I played assistant, cleaning and grinding when he needed.
Got it all tacked in place and it's ready for welding.
Crazy.
It doesn't fit nearly as well as it did the first time, but it's not too bad.
Do you know why it would have changed like that?
Well, obviously I didn't get it back in exactly the same place. And I think just having the sheet bent a little bit, like pre-bent from the first time, caused it to sort of shift a little bit.
Oh, I see.
Like if I were smart, I would have put more marks on, but also like because of the camber, I couldn't line up the edges, so I couldn't get it straight this way really, other than just relying along the back gap, which worked out okay, but
Yeah, it doesn't look bad at all.
no, I have a big gap right here, which I'll probably have to put a piece of material in to fill it.
The other side's fine.
The other side's okay. Yeah, other than that, I did paint up underneath here just to keep it from rusting.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a bit of an issue.
Why would that be an issue? Just because it's going to melt the paint off or burn the paint off?
Yeah, and some of it's going to come up into the weld.
Oh.
It's not too bad so far, but I think once I start putting heat into it, it's gonna get worse.
You're worried about getting porosity or something?
Yeah, we want to avoid that. Yeah,
Hopefully.
only thing is to try, and we have to grind it out again. We'll have to grind it out. And I'm gonna run that way, that way, that way, like just keep jumping around. Because they're gonna be hot enough welds. They've got to be hot enough to go in from the top and fill up that hole, this gap. Because I'm not going to be able to weld them from underneath.
You'll see over here, I have a tiny editing station set up. So I'm helping a little bit when Logan needs it, but also editing a video at the same time.
Well, that's it. It's all welded on. No warps, no real low spots. I think I've got, throwing the straight edge over it, the lowest, there's one little dip and it's like less than a millimeter. So, super happy with that.
Next it was time to grind all the welds down flush with the deck before calling it a day.
I just ground this down, made some nice rounded edges here, nothing sharp. Yeah, found a couple of little pinholes.
Places that you missed when you were welding?
Well, I didn't miss them, they were dirty.
Oh yeah.
And bubbled up there and there. That could be built up a little bit more. Yeah, most of it turned out pretty good. Yeah, there's one more right there. Yeah, just a few pinholes and a few low spots, and
Pretty good overall?
yep. Yeah, it's good. It's gonna be very minimal fairing,
That's exciting.
so it's perfect.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah, should get away with just a thin coat over it. There's a few spots I burnt through, so the weld's not very, like, there's...
Messy underneath?
Yeah, it's a little bit messy. And then every once in a while when you burn through...
Get a bit of wire? Or is it just a chunk of slag?
That's just a... But this is what you get. You get these little wires
Yeah.
sticking through. And we need to get rid of those.
You didn't end up adding any filler metal, did you? To this spot, you just welded
No,
it.
I just filled it with weld, and it's pretty good. It's got one little jagged spot where I burnt through it, but I can feel all the way along, and I can feel the weld coming through
That's good.
all the way, so it penetrated
Awesome.
really well.
That's wicked.
Super
Good
happy
news.
about that. The inside corners are like perfect, just filled. Oh, there's a little spot I gotta grind. But yeah, that should all be pretty easy to do up and paint.
The paint did burn a little bit, but it held up better than we expected, and we were still happy with our decision to paint the locker before putting the deck on.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What's this? What is it? Where'd it go?
Go search. Go get it.
Where's the raven?
Where's the raven? Go search. Go find it.
Thanks so much for watching. Next week we have a change of pace and take you on a 3-day bike packing trip. An extra shout out to our patrons for sticking with us through this long process.